Hi everyone, this is Pastor Dan with Calvary Chapel, Cleveland, Washington, and I'd like to share with you today a message with thoughts from the book of Ecclesiastes in the Old Testament. If you've ever read the book of Ecclesiastes casually without any deep study, it may appear to be a random collection of miscellaneous ideas about a variety of topics. But Solomon, who most think is the author, assures us that what he wrote was orderly. It made perfect sense to him, and if we would take the time to study it, it would make perfect sense to us. One word that gets repeated several times is the word vanity. Vanity, vanity, all is vanity, he says. It occurs 38 times in the book, and so that makes it one of the keynotes of the book. Another word that occurs several times is the word happy, or joyful, or gladness, or rejoicing. It's seen in at least two forms, the noun and the related verb. These two words occur at least 16 times in the book. And so the ideas of happiness and vanity, or meaninglessness as it's often translated, are two of the main themes of this little book of wisdom. Solomon is seeking to find happiness, but all he finds is vanity or meaninglessness. And this, folks, is what every human heart discovers at the end of every worldly pursuit apart from God. I do actually believe that God does intend for every person to be happy, to be able to rejoice in life. That's the message of a key verse in the New Testament, Philippians 4:4, where Paul says, "Rejoice in the Lord always." Again, I will say, rejoice. In John 15:11, Jesus said that he spoke certain things to the disciples so that their joy might be full. We know that one of the fruits of the Spirit is joy, and yet few people seem to be happy and joyful. Rather than hearing expressions of joy and happiness, we often hear expressions of complaint and bitterness from ourselves as well. I think more now than probably ever before. We live in an age of unrest and weariness, of unsatisfied longings and desires. And the reason for this is that so many try to solve their yearning for purpose in life and satisfaction by trying to find happiness apart from God. But God made us for himself, and so to try to find fulfillment and purpose apart from a relationship with God will always end in futility. We hear talk of the importance of following your heart. Almost all the beloved Hallmark movies mention this as good advice for those seeking happiness in life. Now, if your heart wants to seek what God has for you, then that's well and good. But if your heart wants to seek only what you want apart from God, then it's not good. Man's quest for happiness will always be in vain so long as he conducts that quest apart from God, which is why Solomon uses the phrase under heaven or under the sun 29 different times, another theme in the book, obviously. It describes Solomon's outlook as he looks at life from a human perspective and not from heaven's point of view. He applies his own wisdom and experience to the complex human situation, and he tries to make some sense out of it, but he can't. The great pastor and Bible commentator G. Campbell Morgan does a great job of summarizing Solomon's problem in his book, Unfolding the Message of the Bible. He says concerning Solomon, quote, "This man had been living through all these experiences under the sun, concerned with nothing above the sun, until there came a moment in which he had seen the whole of life, and there was something over the sun. It is only as a man takes account of that which is over the sun, as well as that which is under the sun, that the things under the sun are seen in their true light." Close quote. And so just remember, if you decide to read and even study the book of Ecclesiastes, and I hope you will, that when Solomon describes a situation in life on this earth and he says it's vanity or meaninglessness, he's talking about as he looks at it from only earth's perspective. When you take the same situation and you look at it from heaven's perspective, the outlook will most often quite be different. I want to tell you that the message of Ecclesiastes is definitely for today. After all, the society which Solomon investigated 1,000 years before the birth of Christ was not too different from our world today. Solomon saw injustice to the poor, crooked politics, incompetent leaders, guilty people allowed to commit more crime, materialism, and a desire for the good old days. Sounds pretty up to date, doesn't it? But he sums it all up by declaring that there are really only two important things in life. The first and foremost is your relationship with God. And the second one, which he mentions several times in the book, is your happiness and joy in this earthly life. But if you're not serving the Lord, then you will eventually miss out on everything valuable in this life and the next, including happiness. If everything you chase after is in this life alone, then you'll be chasing after the wind, and quite often you'll reap the whirlwind. Every human being was made to have a relationship with God first and foremost. And without that, there can be no real peace and satisfaction in this life. Yes, we are supposed to enjoy our lives now, but unless we surrender to God now, we'll never know the enjoyment in this life that God intended. So one of the messages of Ecclesiastes is to turn from the futility of sin and the world and turn to faith in God. Another message is that once you've turned in faith to the Lord, don't think that turning back to the world is an option for you. Don't think that you can walk the fence with one foot in the world and one in the Lord and think that you'll ever experience any true fulfillment and meaning, because you won't. It will always seem close, but it'll be out of your reach. Only a full-on commitment to Jesus will give us the satisfaction and joy that we all seek. Finally, one more message might be to the believer who really wants to follow the Lord and not play games. Hey, don't expect your life to be without problems, and don't bury your head in the sand when problems do show up. Problems will show up, and we need to face them honestly, but look at them from God's perspective. Man's wisdom will fail us, but God's wisdom will never fail us. And don't expect to be able to solve every problem and answer every question. The important thing is to simply obey God's will, and as much as it's possible, enjoy all that He gives us. There will be times of extreme hardship and difficulty when it will take every ounce of courage and strength to get from one day to the next. But if we will keep looking to God, He will help us even in those times. Perhaps this message is best summarized in the prayer of Moses, where he says, "So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom." Psalm 90, verse 12. Perhaps we all need to ask this question of ourselves: what will life be like for us, vanity or victory? If we live it the way God intended, it will be victory every time. I hope this has been helpful. If it has, would you give it a like and a comment, and maybe share it on your own Facebook page so that others might benefit as well? And if you don't have a home church and you live in the Cle Elum, Washington area, consider this an invite to our church at 10 a.m. Sunday morning at 417 East Railroad Street in Cle Elum. Again, this is Pastor Dan with Calvary Chapel in Cle Elum, Washington. May the Lord richly bless you.